The wide plains were quiet that evening, the kind of quiet that made a man feel the weight of his own heartbeat. Ethan Cole, a cowboy who once laughed easily and spoke warmly to everyone he met, now lived most days like a shadow moving across his own land. He had spent 5 long years mourning his wife, Mary, a woman he loved more than the land he worked, more than the sky above him, more than the life he tried to keep living after she was gone. Ethan's ranch sat miles away from the town. Surrounded by tall grass that swayed with the wind like ocean waves, the house was small but strong, built with thick wooden beams that Mary once decorated with flowers every spring. Now the place felt frozen in time. Nothing changed because Ethan did not want to disturb anything that reminded him of her inside the house. Her presence still lived in quiet places. Her favorite scarf hung on a hook beside the door. Her rocking chair's moth from years of use still sat by the fireplace, left exactly where she liked it. Ethan never moved it, not even an inch. It felt wrong to change anything. The house felt like a museum of memories, each item silently telling him that she once lived here, and that she was never coming back. Every morning, Ethan woke before sunrise. The routine kept him going. He would drink a cup of black coffee, tie his boots, put on his dusty hat, and step outside into the fresh air. The sky would still be dark, but he liked it that way. It allowed him to work before the world became bright enough to remind him of what he had lost. He fed the horses, fixed broken fence posts, checked the cattle, and repaired anything that needed attention. It was hard, slow work, especially for a man who carried a heavy heart, but it kept him from thinking too much. Sometimes he found himself talking softly to Mary's memory while he worked, telling her about the weather or how the crops looked, or simply that he missed her most days. He ate alone, worked alone, and sat by the fire alone. He rarely went to town. He never attended social gatherings. People often said Ethan was a kind man, but a silent one, a man whose grief taught him to live inside his own thoughts. Folks respected him, but also felt sorry for him. They wished he would let someone else in, but Ethan's heart stayed locked behind a door he wasn't ready to open. As the months passed, the ranch slowly began to show signs of neglect. The barn roof leaked when it rained. The fence line grew weak in several places. The wooden porch creaked more than before. Ethan still worked hard, but he no longer had the spirit he used to have, the spirit that Mary always admired. One late afternoon, as the sky darkened with heavy clouds, Ethan noticed the wind picking up. He looked at the horizon, recognizing the signs of a storm rolling in fast. Storms on the plains could be strong, sometimes dangerous. He set aside the tools he was using and hurried to prepare the ranch. He secured loose boards, tied down equipment, and guided the cattle towards safer ground. The horses in the barn grew restless, pacing and snorting as thunder rumbled in the distance. Ethan stroked their necks and whispered calming words, trying to reassure them, even though he felt the storm building inside his own chest. By the time he made it back to the house, large raindrops were already falling. The wind howled as he shut the door behind him. Lightning flashed bright, followed by a deep roar of thunder. The storm hit with full force, rattling the windows and sending sheets of rain across the land. Ethan lit a lamp and sat near the fire, trying to warm himself. Stormy nights always made him think of Mary. She used to sit close to him during storms, holding his arm and smiling even when the thunder was loud. "Storms can't scare me when I'm with you," she would say. The memory brought a small ache to Ethan's chest, a familiar ache he had learned to live with. Hours passed as the storm continued without mercy. The wind pushed against the walls, and rain sounded like stones hitting the ground. Ethan stood up to check that everything outside was still secure when he suddenly heard something he had not expected: a knock. At first, he thought he imagined it. No one came to his ranch in the middle of a storm. But then it came again, 3 soft knocks, barely audible over the wind. Ethan's heart tightened. Who could be out there in this weather? He walked to the door and hesitated for a moment. Then he pulled it open. Standing in the rain was a woman soaked from head to toe. Her clothes were dripping, her hair plastered to her face, and her eyes looked tired, as if she had traveled a long way. She seemed hesitant, unsure whether she should even be there. When she finally lifted her face and looked at him clearly, Ethan felt his breath catch. It was a face he recognized. But not from the present. From the past? Ethan, she whispered, her voice trembling. It's me, Anna. Anna, Mary's younger sister. Ethan had not seen her since the funeral. Back then, she was too heartbroken to stay in the town that reminded her of her sister. She moved far away, promising to write, but life pulled her in different directions. Neither of them kept in touch, and now, 5 years later, she was suddenly standing in the doorway of his home, rain running down her clothes. Her eyes full of a mixture of fear, exhaustion, and something deeper, something that looked like sorrow. Ethan stood speechless for a long moment. Of all the people he expected to see, Anna was not one of them. She looked older now, a bit thinner, with shadows under her eyes. But she also carried the same gentle expression Mary had, same softness in her voice, the same strength hidden behind sadness. What? What are you doing here? He finally managed to ask, his voice rough. Anna swallowed, her lips trembling slightly. I'm sorry to come like this. I didn't know where else to go. The wind pushed rain sideways, splashing her face. Ethan immediately stepped aside. Come in, he said. She entered the house slowly, dripping water onto the wooden floor. Ethan closed the door behind her, blocking out the storm. When he turned toward her, he saw her eyes wandering over the room, taking in the old rocking chair, Mary's scarf by the door, and the quiet atmosphere that seemed frozen in time. It was clear that the sight of Mary's belongings hit her deeply. But she didn't say anything. Ethan grabbed a dry blanket from a shelf and offered it to her. Sit by the fire, he said gently. Anna nodded, wrapping the blanket around her. She sat near the fireplace, her body shaking slightly from the cold. Ethan poured her a cup of warm tea and placed it near her hands. She whispered a small thank you, her voice barely audible. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The storm outside roared like a wild animal, but inside the house, the silence felt heavier. Ethan leaned against the table, watching Anna quietly. She had grown so much since he last saw her, yet there were small movements, soft expressions that reminded him painfully of Mary. Finally, Anna lifted her eyes to meet his. I know this is sudden, she said softly, but I needed to come here. I needed to see you. Ethan felt something twist inside his chest. He did not know what she wanted, why she came, or how long she planned to stay. But he could see she was hurting. She looked lost, tired, and unsure of the future, just like he once was. The storm outside continued to rage, trapping them together in the small house that still held the memory of the woman they both loved. Ethan cleared his throat. You can stay the night, he said, trying to sound calm. The storm won't let up anytime soon. Anna nodded gratefully. Thank you, Ethan, truly. As she warmed her hands by the fire, Ethan watched her silently, wondering what story she carried, what pain brought her back, and why she chose to return after all these years. He didn't know it yet, but her arrival would change the quiet world he had lived in for 5 long years. It would open old memories, reveal hidden truths, and slowly lead him toward something he never expected to feel again: hope. The cowboy mourned his wife for 5 years until her sister appeared in his home, the morning after the storm arrived quietly, as if the world itself wanted to move softly around to people who had barely spoken the night before. The sun peeked through the clouds, its warm light falling across the fields that were soaked with rainwater. The ranch looked peaceful again, but the atmosphere inside the house remained uncertain. Ethan woke early out of habit. He stepped into the kitchen, lit the stove, and started preparing breakfast. The simple sounds of cooking eggs cracking, the pan sizzling, the kettle heating felt strangely louder than usual. He kept glancing toward the small room where Anna slept, unsure of what to expect when she came out. He hadn't had another person stay in his home in years. The silence he used to live with felt different, now longer empty, but not entirely comfortable either. A few minutes later, Anna stepped quietly into the kitchen doorway. She wore the same clothes from the night before, now dry but wrinkled. Her hair was slightly messy, and there was tiredness around her eyes. But she looked calmer, as if she had slept deeper than she had in a long time. "Good morning," she said softly. Ethan nodded. "Morning. I made breakfast." Anna offered a small, grateful smile. "It smells good." They sat at the table together. The first few minutes passed in silence. Anna held her cup with both hands, warming her fingers, while Ethan quietly pushed food around his plate before finally eating. It was clear that both were uncertain how to speak after 5 years of no contact. Finally, Anna broke the silence. "I'm sorry for showing up like that. I know it must have been shocking." Ethan set down his fork slowly. "I just wasn't expecting anybody. Especially you." Anna let out a small breath. "I didn't expect to come either, but I didn't have a choice." Ethan studied her face. "Are you in some kind of trouble?" She shook her head quickly. "No, nothing dangerous. I just reached a point where I couldn't stay where I was anymore." He waited patiently, sensing she needed time to speak. "I lost my job," she said quietly. "The company closed. After that, I tried to find work, but nothing steady came. The rent went up. Everything became harder. I felt like I was drowning." Her voice trembled slightly, but she kept her gaze steady, and being alone made it worse. She continued. "Every time I tried to sleep, I kept thinking about Mary. I missed her so much that sometimes I felt like I couldn't breathe, and I thought about you too. I wondered if you were still taking care of the ranch, if you were eating properly, if you were okay." Ethan looked down at his hands. "I don't know if okay is the right word." Anna gave him a sad smile. "I figured." They finished breakfast quietly. Afterward, Anna insisted on helping clean the kitchen. Ethan tried to tell her she didn't need to, but she shook her head. "I want to," she said. "I need to keep busy. It helps." Ethan understood that feeling too well. When the kitchen was clean, Anna stepped outside, taking in the sight of the ranch. The air smelled fresh after the storm, and the sun warmed her face. Ethan followed her silently. "You kept everything the same?" she said softly, noticing the familiar trees, the barn that looked just like she remembered, the fence line stretching out over the land. "Yeah," Ethan said, looking away. "Couldn't bring myself to change too much." "Ah, Mary loved this place." "I know." Ethan swallowed hard. "I try to keep it going for her." Anna watched him with soft eyes. "You've done well, Ethan. Better than you think." He didn't reply, but her words warmed him more than the morning sun as the day moved forward. Anna offered to help with the chores. She said she needed something to do, and Ethan could see that she meant it. So he handed her a pair of gloves and walked her through the tasks. They mended a broken fence post together. They swept the barn floor and arranged tools. They fed the horses, who seemed curious about the new visitor. At first, Anna moved with uncertainty, but as the hours passed, she grew more comfortable, and Ethan found himself watching her with a strange mixture of familiarity and distance. There were moments where she reminded him so much of Mary that it almost hurt. A small smile she made when a horse nuzzled her hand, the way she brushed hair away from her face, even the way she laughed softly at something simple. But there were also differences. Anna was quieter, more gentle in her movements. She carried sadness in her eyes, but also strengths, something shaped by her own battles. It's not just shared loss. Around midday, they took a break under the shade of the big oak tree near the barn. Anna wiped her forehead with her sleeve. "It feels good to work like this," she said, catching her breath. Ethan nodded. "The land has a way of calming a person." Anna looked at him thoughtfully. "Is that how you survived these past years?" He paused. "Partly. The rest, I'm still figuring out." Anna nodded as if she understood completely. They continued working until late afternoon. The day passed quietly, but not uncomfortably. There was something peaceful about having another pair of hands on the ranch. Another presence moving through the same spaces Ethan had walked alone for so long when evening approached. Ethan started preparing dinner. Anna helped chop vegetables and set the table. The house felt more alive than it had in years. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It felt shared. After dinner, they sat near the fireplace. The warmth of the flames reflected gently on Anna's face. She looked thoughtful, almost restless. "Ethan," she said quietly, her voice careful, "can I ask you something?" He turned to her. "Sure. Why?" Why didn't you ever talk to me after the funeral? Not even once. Ethan stiffened. It was a question he had avoided for years. He stared at the fire for a long moment before answering. Because it hurt too much, he said softly. Every time I saw you, I saw Mary. I heard her voice when you spoke. You two looked so alike. Every reminder felt like reopening the wound. Anna swallowed hard. I thought you didn't want anything to do with me. I thought maybe I reminded you of your pain. You did, Ethan said honestly. But not because of anything wrong you did. I just didn't know how to handle it. Anna blinked back, the emotion building in her eyes. I felt alone too, Ethan. When I left town, I thought distance would help. But it didn't. I still miss her every day. And I missed being around someone who loved her as much as I did. Ethan looked at her, seeing the depth of her sadness. He realized something then didn't just come because she was struggling. She came because she was hurting in the same way he had been hurting for years. I'm sorry, Ethan said quietly. I never meant to make you feel alone. Anna shook her head. We both suffered. We just didn't do it together. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the silence felt like a bridge between them rather than a wall. A soft breeze slipped through the open window, carrying the smell of fresh rain. Anna leaned back in the chair, her expression thoughtful. Ethan, she said after a moment, there's something I haven't told you yet. Something important. He waited, sensing the seriousness in her tone. Anna reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She held it gently, almost fearfully, staring at it as if it carried a weight too heavy for one person. What's that? Ethan asked quietly. Anna's voice was barely above a whisper when she answered. It's a letter, she said. A letter Mary wrote before she died. Ethan froze. The room seemed to shrink around him. Anna held the letter tightly, her hands trembling. She wrote it for you, she said. But she sent it to me, and I never knew how to give it to you. The fire popped softly. Outside, a distant rumble of thunder rolled across the plains. But neither of them moved. Ethan stared at the letter as if it held the answers to every question. He had carried in his heart for 5 painful years, Anna. He whispered, unable to find the strength to say more. Anna looked at him with guilt, sadness, and fear, all mixing together. I didn't know if giving it to you would help you heal, or break you again, she said softly. But I think you deserve to know what she wrote. Ethan felt the floor beneath him steady again, only because he forced his breath to remain calm. Why now? He asked. Anna swallowed. Because you're not as broken as you think. And because I can't carry her words alone anymore. The fire crackled gently. Filling the silence that followed, Ethan stared at the letter, knowing that once he opened it, nothing in his life would ever be the same again. And Anna, sitting there with trembling hands, looked like someone who had been waiting years to let go of a secret that tied her heart to thee. Past the truth was finally coming, and neither of them knew what it would bring. The room felt heavy with silence as Ethan stared at the folded letter in Anna's shaking hands. The firelight flickered across her face, showing fear, guilt, and something deeper, love for her sister and worry for the man sitting across from her. Ethan's chest tightened as he tried to understand why Mary would send a letter to Anna. Instead of leaving it somewhere for him, Anna looked down at the paper as if it were a fragile thing that might break apart with one wrong movement. She wrote it a few months before she passed, she whispered. She mailed it to me without telling anyone. I didn't understand why at the time, and when she left us, I didn't have the courage to read it right away. Yeah. Ethan's voice was quiet. Why didn't you tell me before? Anna swallowed. Because I was scared. I didn't know what her words would do to you. I was afraid they would reopen every wound you worked so hard to close. Ethan nodded slowly. I want to read it. Anna hesitated, her fingers pressing against the letter. Are you sure? You've carried so much pain already. Yes, Ethan said firmly. I need to hear what she had to say. With trembling hands, Anna handed him the letter. The paper was soft with age, slightly creased, and marked with the faint scent of lavender, the same scent Mary used to keep in her clothes. Ethan held the letter for a moment, closing his eyes. letting his breath steady before opening it. He unfolded the paper slowly. Mary's handwriting rushed back into his mind, instantly soft. Curved letters, the kind she used when writing notes for him on the kitchen table. His hand shook as he began to read. "My dear Ethan," the letter began. The words blurred as tears filled his eyes. But he blinked them away and continued. "If you are reading this, something has happened to me. I don't want you to feel guilty, not even for a second. You gave me the happiest years of my life. I write this because I can feel my health changing, and I want to prepare in case something ever goes wrong." Ethan's fingers tightened on the paper. He never knew she sensed anything. He had believed her passing was sudden and unexpected, but here she was, in her own words, showing that she had known her body was weakening. Anna watched him carefully, her own eyes filling with tears. "Take your time," she whispered, but Ethan continued reading, his heart pounding. "Ethan, if I leave this world before you, I need you to promise me one thing. Don't let loneliness take your life away. You are a strong man, but you love deeply, and deep love can cause deep pain." He bit his lip, unable to stop a tear from slipping down his cheek. "I want you to live. Ethan, not just survive, live." His breath trembled. Then came the part that made him stop reading for a long while. "I ask Anna to look after you. I trust her. She has a good heart. And I ask you something else. Don't push her away if she comes to you. She cares about you more than you realize." Ethan's eyes widened. He looked up at Anna, shocked. She looked away, her cheeks wet. He forced himself to continue. "Don't be afraid to let light back into your life. If Anna stays by your side, let her. She is strong, kind, and capable of giving comfort where I can no longer be." The final lines were gentle, filled with love. "You will always be my heart, Ethan, but your life shouldn't end with mine. Find peace. Find warmth. And remember me with a smile, not tears." Mary, when Ethan finally lowered the letter, his hands were trembling. He felt fragile, as if the world around him had shifted too quickly. Anna wiped her cheeks quietly. "I didn't know how to give it to you," she whispered. "I was scared it would break you. Didn't break me," Ethan said in a quiet voice. "It healed something inside me that I didn't know was still open." He read the letter again, slowly this time, letting Mary's words touch the parts of him that had stayed locked away for 5 long years. He felt sadness. Yes, but there was something new too, something warm. A feeling that Mary didn't want him to suffer forever. She had loved him enough to think about his future. Anna sat across from him, watching him with soft eyes. "She loved you more than anything," she said gently, "and she wanted you to be happy." Ethan looked at her, and for the first time, he didn't see a painful reminder of Mary. He saw Anna for who she was, her own person with her own strength, her own sadness, her own quiet heart. "You carried this for 5 years," he said softly. "That must have been hard." Anna nodded. "It was, but I couldn't bring myself to give it to you when you were already hurting so much. And then I tried to move on, but no matter where I went, that letter followed me. Her words followed me. I felt like I was failing her by keeping it secret." Ethan placed the letter gently on the table. The firelight danced across the pages. "You didn't fail her," he said. "You brought it to me when the time was right." Anna looked at him, surprised by his calm tone. "You're not angry?" "No," Ethan said softly. "A little shocked, but not angry." She let out a breath she had been holding for years. They sat in silence for a few minutes, both processing the weight of what had been revealed. Finally, Anna spoke again. "What will you do now, after reading it?" Ethan looked around his house, the rocking chair, the scarf, the memories. "For the first time," he said slowly, "I think I can breathe without feeling guilty." Anna nodded, understanding. That night, neither of them spoke much more. The air felt softer, quieter, as if the ranch itself sensed the shift in Ethan's heart. Over the next few days, something subtle changed between them. Ethan no longer kept as much distance. Anna no longer hesitated before speaking. They moved through the house naturally, sharing chores, meals, and small conversations that felt surprisingly comforting. One morning, as the sun rose high in the clear sky, Anna helped him fix a broken section of the fence. They worked side by side, both sweating under the warm weather. At one point, Ethan handed her a tool, her fingers brushing slightly. A spark of warmth passed between them, gentle and quiet, not rushed or confusing. Anna looked at him, her eyes soft. "You don't have to be alone anymore, Ethan," he swallowed, his voice steady. "I know." They continued working, not speaking further. But the silence was warm, almost peaceful. In the following weeks, life slowly returned to the ranch. Grass grew greener. The house felt warmer. The barn was repaired. The animals seemed calmer. Anna's laughter echoed across the yard sometimes, surprising Ethan with how comforting it felt. Little by little, Ethan's heart healed. Little by little, Anna found a place where she felt safe again. They visited Mary's resting place together one morning. Ethan placed fresh flowers on the ground, his eyes calm for the first time in years. "Thank you," he whispered, "for loving me, for giving me strength, for giving me a chance to live again." Anna stood beside him quietly, her hands folded in front of her. When they walked back to the ranch, Ethan spoke softly. "You can stay here as long as you want. This place. It's your home too." Anna looked at him, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I'd like that," she said. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hadn't touched his face in 5 years. As they reached the porch, the sun rose behind them, spreading light across the land. The ranch, once silent with grief, now held something new: hope, warmth, a beginning, not a replacement. A gentle future built on love, memory, and healing. Ethan knew Mary would be at peace, knowing he had found light again, and Anna knew her journey had brought her exactly where she needed to be. Together, they stepped inside the home that now belonged not to the past, but to the life waiting ahead.